Welcome back to another episode of Catherine Creative Chats. Today we have the honor of having our guest, Michael Letchworth, and he is the co-owner of Sam Jones BBQ in North Carolina. So, Michael, to start off with, can you tell us a little bit about your restaurants and how you came up with the name, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So our restaurant we're in East North Carolina. We have one in Winterville, which is just outside of Greenville, and we have one in Raleigh. We are known for a whole hog barbecue. And my partner, Sam Jones, his grandfather started a barbecue business in our hometown of Ayden in 1947. And his family has cooked barbecue a few generations before that. But the restaurant at Ayden was called Skylight Inn. But locally, people always knew it as Pete Jones Barbecue. And that was kind of its alias to anybody around. Um, and we wanted to open up a restaurant, or Samuel wanted to, and then he invited me to be in a partner on that. And Skylight Inn was my longtime high school and college job. And I looked up to Samuel as kind of a big brother prior to starting that in high school also. But um, we wanted to open up a restaurant. We wanted to do other things, so by doing that, we didn't want to take away from Skylight because Skylight's always been known for doing like cornbread, coleslaw, and barbecue. They do offer a few more now, but that was their core. But we didn't want to go away from that and have something else named Skylight and it not be the same. But it was very, very important to keep that family connection and to know that we weren't just another barbecue place out there, that there was some tradition come along with us. And so the very best way to do that was to name it Sam Jones because Samuel had also been kind of the face for Skylight Inn for a number of years.
Mm.
So his name brought a lot of weight and brand recognition.
Wow, that's amazing that you've had such a long history. And, of course, before it's Sam Jones, it's been around for a very long time. That's amazing. So have you always been in the restaurant industry, or how did you first start working in the restaurants? I know you mentioned high school days.
Yeah. Yeah, so Skylight Inn, Christmas Eve was always a really busy day for them. And back in the day, they didn't always cook. So right now we cook pigs that are 165 to 185 pounds.
Mhm.
Back in the day, they may cook 115, 120. It was just kind of a mix of whatever they got. So
Mhm.
on Christmas Eve day, they may cook 20 pigs that were going out. And that day typically isn't people coming in and getting a plate for lunch. It's typically getting pounds for the holidays. So I met Samuel riding four wheelers. His family lived a couple miles down the road from me, and there's a creek path that connects those areas. And I was just on my four wheeler going to see my childhood friend who lived beside Samuel. And we met, and our families knew each other. Samuel's 7 years older than I am. But he was nice and he invited me, hey, anytime you see us riding, you're welcome to come ride four wheelers with us. And so I kind of slowly took him up on that offer. And then him and his buddies just kind of took me in, and we're good role models. And we're kind of, I was like their little brother.
Mhm.
And so I looked up to them and I wanted to do whatever they were doing. So I would go and help out on Christmas Eve. Um, Before high school. I was in eighth or ninth grade, maybe. Um,
Wow.
and then one of the other friends had a landscaping company. I would work from them, like running the weed eater and a blower. And Samuel's grandfather had gotten sick and was out of the business, and they needed help. And so I would step in and help a little bit here and help a little bit there. Well, then I realized that landscaping, you can't make any money when it's raining, and there's certain, and after school there wasn't so much daylight in the wintertime, but working at the restaurant, I could work in the dark and I could work when it was raining. So they kind of stole me over at Skylight Inn back in the summer of 2002 or three.
Wow.
And I worked there until I graduated college in 2010. Um,
Wow.
so coming up this summer will be 22 years that I've
Yeah.
been around that family business. Now, I graduated college in 2010 with a degree in construction management. Um, and I went to work with a commercial contractor locally
Hmm.
that I had done my internship with that program. And in that time period, Samuel was getting some opportunities to travel and go do events and just needed help with those. So I was using all my vacation days from my job to go on barbecue trips.
Wow.
And I kind of rekindled a passion because working at the restaurant, um, just serving people barbecue was just a job, right? Like it was just something I needed to do until I got past. So I
Mhm.
graduated college and I got a real job. Um, but I realized there was something special in the family traditions and the way um, people were recognizing the family tradition and appreciating barbecue.
Mhm.
Um, so I went to Samuel one day after going to an event, and this was in 2013, maybe. And it was
Mhm.
just like, hey, buddy, like if there's a way for me to make a living and there's
Mhm.
a spot, keep me in mind. I'd love to come back sometime. And that conversation just kind of sat and marinated. And he had a mentor that was kind of talking him into maybe doing his own thing, so he could you know, have some equity in because he didn't own anything of Skylight, his family did, but was trying to prepare him for his future and for all the work he was putting in building a brand around himself. Um, but that mentor had said, like, hey, if you're going to be building this brand and you're going to be still taking care of Skylight, you need a partner and you need somebody with skin in the game that you can trust and that can help you run the business. And I think that my reputation from the years past working with them and
Mhm.
me planting that seed of saying, hey, if there's ever something, let me know. So he hit me up and asked me if I'd be interested in doing, working at the restaurant or helping him open the restaurant. And I said yes. And then a subsequent conversation offered me a partnership to be a part of it.
Mhm.
And so we opened our Winterville restaurant in November of 2015. We opened
Mhm.
our Raleigh restaurant in 2021. And then we also have a retail business that we sell sauces and shirts and that kind of stuff to the
Yeah.
public. And we supply our own restaurants with certain things.
That
Um,
that's awesome. I can see
yeah,
that, your success really branched out over the years. Do you remember when Sam Jones reached out to you to, join him in this restaurant venture? I know it was a long time ago, but do you remember how you felt? Like, were you like, yes, let's do it like yesterday? Or what were your
yeah.
thoughts?
So I remember I walked into Skylight Inn and in the middle of the kitchen was the machine where they make coleslaw. And he was making coleslaw when I went to talk to him about it. And
Uh-huh.
to understand that, like, I was 25 or 26 maybe. Um, and so when somebody asks you like, "Hey, would you like to be my partner?" Like my first thing was, yeah, but like I don't have like disposable income to help do.
True.
Was very naive to what that took and what that process looked like. But also it was a very insignificant feeling because like if you feel like and part of this too is because this was all new to Samuel too. So what the ask and what the requirements were going to be were kind of unknown. What was needed in that moment was a commitment to lock arms and do it,
Make it work. Yeah.
And so one of the key moments that I remember was we were setting up at a local festival
Hmm.
a couple months down the road. He was like, "Hey, we're going to need to go to the bank, next week and sign paperwork." And I was like, "They going to let me sign the paperwork? Like, you sure? Like, are you sure we can get what we need to do with me signing this paperwork?" And so we did, and that's when it became very real. Uh,
Wow.
but also for me, it took me a little while before I really felt like an owner,
Yeah.
because I felt like I had been gifted this opportunity, and I felt very in debt for that opportunity. Um, and then, there's an immense amount of work that goes into opening a restaurant and the hours put in. So I finally, it took a little bit, but I finally felt like I found my role. And, we were fortunate with business as far as, paying back the money and that kind of stuff. So, we were very fortunate in the way things just kind of worked out for us.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was scary, but it was cool because it was a life lesson because it kind of over the years has taught me so much about business and it's kind of jump started, my entrepreneurial journey in
Yeah.
other areas too.
That's so inspiring. Wow. That's amazing. I can really tell that you are really passionate about what you do, which that itself, that's like one of the keys to success, right? Is you're so passionate about it. So have you always loved barbecue, that cuisine? Like what's your favorite dish that, you like to make at your restaurant? Like what makes it so great? What makes it so
Yeah, so maybe a long answer for that, not exactly what you're asking, but
okay?
I did not grow up like being like a barbecue fanatic, and my
Uh-huh.
parents weren't like barbecue fanatics. Growing up, mom and dad would bring home Skylight Inn or Pete Jones for dinner.
Nice.
I ate barbecue because it was one of the restaurants in our hometown, one of the few restaurants in our hometown.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I wasn't one of these people, and I feel like an imposter sometimes because people kind of really, you know, look up to us in barbecue. But like, I'm
Hmm.
not the guy who went on barbecue trails trying 20 different
Right.
barbecue restaurants with my buddies. It just wasn't how it was. This was my high school job
Yeah.
that I invested a lot of time in and grew to respect their traditions and feel responsible for helping carry those traditions on. When you look at how things have kind of worked out, so Samuel has two sisters.
Hmm.
They're not involved in the business right now. Samuel doesn't have a son. So, like, the Jones name is not going to carry on uh,
Mm.
any further,
I know
honestly.
what you're saying.
So, like, we've got to figure out who, I just want to help be. I'm not trying to be that, but I want to be an avenue of continuing to spread that. So I've always loved cooking ever since I was a little boy. My grandfather died when I was like 7 or 8, and so I went from like going to school programs for the summer to keep me busy to I just went and stayed with my grandma to keep her company.
Mm.
And she sat in the living room and watched soap operas, and I laid in her bed and I watched Food Network, VH1, and MTV. So my summers were filled with VH1 pop up video and watching like Mario Batali and Emeril Lagasse, and so I just watched these, and I would boil leaves and do stuff. So I always had an interest in cooking. I've always been an independent person. When it got to be we were going to open a barbecue restaurant, we were going to be doing other things like chicken and ribs, and that we didn't traditionally do at Skylight. I was like, oh dang, well I need to start stepping my game up. And I'd already started showing an interest in barbecue outside of that. But I enjoy probably I probably enjoy cooking like chicken and ribs most personally. I enjoy eating brisket the most.
Oh, nice.
I think I take whole hog for granted. I was just in Texas last weekend cooking a pig for Turtle Box Audio, and
Uh-huh.
all those people really love the pig, and I was like, are they kind of just like embellishing this and trying to make me feel good and acting like it's really good? But I just it's just crazy how much I think I take it for granted at this point.
No, that is such an awesome thing that is a whole hog. And so do you follow a recipe at this point, or do you just know like, oh, this needs a little bit of this? Let's say you're making like sauce or anything like coleslaw.
Yeah.
Do you still use a recipe or do you kind of just know?
So, like, if I'm cooking at home or I'm
Yeah,
cooking
at home.
something one off,
Hmm.
I don't really follow a recipe. Like, there's enough
Wow.
intuition. But at the
Yeah.
restaurant, there's recipes that I made that I still have to go to the book to follow because I don't remember them. But at the restaurant, we're very adamant about following the recipes, um,
Mm.
just for the sake of consistency.
That
I've
makes sense.
even gone as far as like, so we make our sweet barbecue sauce every day. It's just
Uh-huh.
what it takes in our rotation of products. But all the spices that go into that
Hmm.
already have pre-bagged from our seasoning company. So the
Oh,
employees just dump that bag in with sugar, vinegar, water, and ketchup, and then the barbecue sauce is done. Um,
wow. Okay.
so we try to make our recipes as, because efficiency and consistency is what keeps us alive,
Yeah.
company standpoint.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So I know you've been along for, for a long time, Sam Jones, and of course before that, his grandfather. How has your restaurant become a part of your community in both
Yeah.
occasions?
So Skylight Inn and there's another barbecue restaurant in our hometown called Bum's Barbecue, and they're distant relatives.
Okay.
It has always been like an iconic place, right? And like it has honestly been one of the few things that brought attention to our town from national or regional media. Um,
Yeah.
so we've been very fortunate that as we expanded and kind of morphed into our own thing, that brand recognition and that reputation we were able to bring with us and kind of piggyback off of.
Hmm.
Um, so, like in our community, we're active in trying to help and donate and be a part of things as much as we can. But what we are, I feel like, to the people of our community, we're
Hmm.
something that people can have pride in and bring their out of town friend or guest. Hey, if you want barbecue, come check this place out.
Yeah.
Um, so I love that the way we go about business by cooking the whole hogs over wood coals still, cooking all of our other meats over wood coals. We're making all of our sides scratch made in house. What we're doing is not revolutionary, but I've been fortunate that we don't have to change up our menu. We're not, doing funky stuff. We're just serving honest, home cooked food in a bigger portion.
Yeah.
And we've always, and it's even deeper than that, from the employees. Some of the employees, it's a very transactional experience. They show up, they do the job, they go home. And then there's some people I mean, there's people that work with us that have been there since we trained when we opened the doors.
Mm,
All of our managers, the shortest tenured manager we have is like 7 or 8 years.
wow.
Um, so people have been there for a long time, and it's a place for people to get mentored and helped. And we've always put, our product and our people over profit, and it's worked for us.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And actually, my husband and I love barbecue. So the next time we're up in North Carolina, don't be surprised if we.
Remind me, where are you located at?
We're in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, but my parents lived in Tennessee for a while. So, and we went hiking around North Carolina before. It's beautiful. We love it. So yeah, the next time we go on the road trip, because we
I
love.
like coming a little north of you. I like going fishing in Crystal River.
Ooh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of fishing here, that's for sure. So, along with all your experience that you've gathered, just over the years from like restaurant experience, and even before that, you were in construction for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like what advice would you give somebody who was trying to start a business? What advice would you give somebody who wants to open their own restaurant? Because we know it's not easy,
Yeah.
right? So what kind of like, yeah, insights could you give somebody?
So we have a lot of people, they'll reach out through social media
Mhm.
or just call in the restaurant and say, hey, I'm interested in, I've got like a catering thing I do as a side gig, and I'm thinking about expanding it, or I'd like to maybe have my restaurant one day, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And we're always open to people will come. I've had people from South America, Canada, just all over the place that come and they spend time with us and they try to learn. Um, and oftentimes they spend their time trying to learn how we cook the pig or how we cook something. And there's absolute value in that. But these people that are coming, they're already passionate about barbecue. They already know how to cook barbecue.
Mhm.
Um, but what I never have anybody come and ask me is about our systems for operations. How do you remain profitable? They're not the things. And so for me, I started this journey being passionate about barbecue. I very quickly realized that to make this business successful, um, it is 100%. I mean, I'm running the business from day to day, but the biggest thing I can, and I'm dancing around your answer because I think it's multifaceted and I think it's absolutely different depending on what type of business you're going into. But
Mhm.
the most powerful thing for me in my life has been relationships
Mhm.
and specifically mentorship.
Mhm.
And so, if you're whatever that you're into, or whatever kind of business you're looking for, pick that person that you look up to,
Mhm.
and maybe they will mentor you, but there will be somebody who will bend their ear and give you advice. But I think that everybody can make good food. It's just like there's plenty of good singers out there, but only a few of them make it to the big stage, right? When
True.
it really comes down to is trying to love on people that are your customer and your employees, and don't forget like the little things, and but from starting the business and growing the business, there's a lot of little steps, and it's tough early on because if you don't have anything to when you go to the bank to get money, if you don't have any financials to show them, I mean, it's a risky deal to go
Right.
with. So the financing and trying to figure out the monetary piece of it can be a burden. But I would say start small and build those steps and relationships, because you can leverage somebody who's already been through and made the mistakes, and you can skip
Mhm.
all that and jump to the solution for those struggles.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I thought I was going to go somewhere else with that answer, possibly,
Uh-huh.
but I truly think the most important thing that somebody can have in their life is mentorship.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's so true. Just somebody who knows more, who has done it, maybe, or who
Yeah.
can see from a bird's eye view what I can't see, right? And I know you mentioned earlier a little bit about maybe like at the beginning stages, of course, maybe feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, you were describing a little bit. Like how would somebody get over that? Because that is very natural, like we want to be honest, but if we haven't started a restaurant before, it's like, how do you overcome that feeling? You know?
Well, so, I've had a lot of emotions over the years. Initially it was some imposter syndrome type feeling.
Mhm.
Um, and then there was this phase of, hey, I'm trying really hard and, you know, I think I'm doing a good job, but I felt like I don't feel like there was zero recognition for what that was.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there was definitely a period of time where like I wanted that recognition because I was like, I worked really hard. Why doesn't anybody recognize this and these efforts being put in by me and our team?
Hmm.
Um, but then I realized that that didn't mean as much, and I'd rather not have the validation's always nice, but I'd rather somebody that I don't know not validate me and me looking at my business and know that my people, my business, and that it's successful, and that was what I needed.
Hmm.
But as time has passed, as you quit wanting that recognition, you keep maybe striving for that recognition. Well, now all of a sudden you start getting recognized as somebody, and I think that ultimately it's just kind of time.
Hmm.
Got to be seasoned. People have got to see something a couple of times and understand it's real.
Yeah.
Um, but I still don't. I don't think we're anything special, and I don't think that what we're doing is life changing. But um, I don't take it lightly when people recognize us as somebody, that is very experienced in our industry or in our craft.
Hmm.
And I feel very responsible to share knowledge or lessons with anybody who's willing to listen. Um, because I just feel very fortunate and lucky to kind of have the story that I have, but also to have had the experiences I have.
Yeah.
And I understand what created those.
Hmm.
Um, and it all falls back to like the relationships.
Yeah, no, that's really good to, to speak to that because graduation season's coming around the corner. There's graduates coming up from either high school or, college. They have their own dreams and sometimes you look at graduates like, okay, some of them might succeed and some of them might not, depending on things that happen. And I know you also mentioned earlier that, you went to college.
Mhm.
You were in construction management for a while, but of course you had a career change, if you will. So like I don't know if you can speak to that too. Like how does somebody know, you know what, I'm good at this, but I want to do that instead? Like, I mean, there's risks, of course, but
Sure.
like could you give us any tips or insights as to like when is it okay to switch careers or not?
Uh, you know, I can speak to that only to the limits that I have. So, I feel like I have a very unique story. I've never had a formal job interview in my life.
Wow, that's amazing.
I've never applied for a job before, ever. I've never
Wow,
sent an application or a resume in.
that's a luxury.
Um, so, that's been a little bit of a challenge for me as I interview people and as I'm going through these formal processes. I've never even experienced it to even know how to go about it. And maybe sometimes that's nice because it honestly just becomes a conversation.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been a very driven, I guess, type A person.
Okay.
I would guess say a natural leader. I don't like waiting. If there's a task to be done, I like to do it.
Mm,
Um, but the company that I worked for was small. There was only five of us, so we were just a subcontractor. So basically, we just got the contract. We were a sub who subbed things out. We did some things in house, but for me, it was a small company. Everybody seemed kind of established there, and they were good to me. But I was very limited. I didn't get to lead any. I didn't feel like I could move up financially or in my position
mm,
unless somebody left.
mm,
Um, and so when I had been working there at the time 4 years when the restaurant stuff kind of came about,
hmm.
and I just felt like it was a good time to change. My wife was still in grad school, and it was like take the risk now. And so if I could this may not be part of your question, but I would like to tie this back.
Sure.
What I would say if somebody's thinking about taking that risk, whether that be a job swap or somebody's thinking about starting that business
Uh-huh.
and you're young, man, try it. Because like honestly, my life would have been so much harder if I did this financially and in just time if I did this when I had a 3 year old or when life now, it's a whole lot. Once you get life established and you've got bills, you've got all these liabilities that weigh into the factor of can I take this risk or not?
Mm-hmm.
But you take that risk when your liabilities are low
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to build upon that, like it's pretty powerful. But, I would say that like just follow your intuition. Like if the place isn't where you need it to be and you're somebody's just trying to find something secure, they can like ride it out. Cool. I've just never been able to be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never satisfied. I'm never content. I told my wife we were on vacation last week. I was like, if I could be anything, I would just love to be content for once. Um, but I'm not, and I'm never is, and probably never will be. And so yeah, I don't know, like, but I think that take the chance, but don't be so eager to jump around. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's some career paths that I think that that's what you have to do, and that's how you move up, and that's fine. I have no experience in that, don't know. I'm very big on vocational education and vocational careers. So like if there's somebody who has like a successful business in your town, and just because you've got a maybe that was your high school job or your college job, pay attention to that because that person worked really hard to build that business. They
Mm-hmm.
probably don't want to see it go to nothing, but they also probably don't want to work their whole life. So if you can get in there, get the opportunity to help that, start taking bricks out of their bag,
Mm-hmm.
start taking on responsibility because everybody wants that. And you may be faced with the opportunity to purchase that business or to partner in that business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much. We had a hailstorm come through here this week, and the roofing contractor I was meeting with him outside, he had a guy who's one of his employees that's in the construction management program here at East Carolina. And I
Mm-hmm.
was telling him that thing, dude. I was like, dude, you got a good company here. And this guy's trying to grow, and people can't do this stuff alone. And so if you're willing to be a part of the team, and put in time, and that's going to look like you putting in hours and you feeling like you're getting to take advantage of. But I tell you that I worked a lot of hours at Skylight Inn for $8, $9 an hour
Mm-hmm.
to earn me that when there was when one person was going to be picked and when there was going to be a choice, all that time put in made me the choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then every day I felt like I've had to prove that that was a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so people just can't be scared of work and don't chase a title and don't like, don't try to own the place tomorrow. Put the time and really earn it and bring value. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing is bring value.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And you've been so generous with your insights on sharing the story behind Sam Jones BBQ. And once again, I can see that you're passionate about your work. And
So
mhm.
can I tell a quick story? Do we have
um,
time? How much time we got?
sure, we have a couple minutes. Sure.
So what I mean by that is like earn earn your worth. So when
Mhm.
I quit my job too early
Oh.
and I had to go back to work at Skylight before we opened Sam Jones BBQ. And they took on paying me my salary from my other job to keep me afloat until Sam Jones. And I felt bad, even though I was working 6 days a week. So I just started I made like an A-frame sign marketing pork skins and cake and all this stuff. But just through my efforts, I
Hmm.
paid my salary from the sales increases that I created. So like that's what I mean. If you bring value,
Hmm.
you can set your price.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Like and once again, thank you so much for being so
Yeah.
generous for, sharing all your advice from all these years of being in business. So as we wrap things up, Michael, can you share with our audience, where we can find you online? I'm gonna post, your addresses for your restaurants in the show notes. But where can we find you online and, how can we reach out to you?
Yeah, so Sam Jones Barbecue or Sam Jones BBQ is all of our Facebook and Instagram. I'm Michael Letchworth. Um, I think a lot of people follow me expecting to get barbecue, and all you get is a lot of me and my son fishing. There's a lot of that. So, but yeah, I would love anybody listening to this to stop by our restaurants. We're happy. We're an open book. We'll show you around, show you the smokehouse. But yeah, SamJonesBBQ.com and Sam Jones BBQ on other stuff.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much once again for being on our podcast. And everybody, thank you for listening. And if you want to see more podcast episodes like this, please subscribe and stay tuned.